Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Friday, August 14th, 2026. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. On today's episode, we'll hear from Leslie Iwerks, the veteran producer and documentary director. Her latest feature documentary effort, Disney Worldbuilders, premieres August 20th on Disney+. Iwerks offers a look at what it means for a director to see his or her creative vision come to life in a Disney park. It's an interesting study of how narrative storytelling is conceived and executed these days. Iwerks knows something about the marriage of technology, artistry, and ambition. Her grandfather, Ub Iwerks, helped Walt and Roy Disney build the Disney brand when they were all still back in Kansas City in the early 1920s. That makes her perfectly positioned to put this transformative moment in context for the Mouse House. But before we get to all of that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Spider-Man Brand New Day keeps tearing up at the turnstiles for Sony Pictures. This week, Spidey hit the $700 million mark at the domestic box office, faster than any movie in history. Apple TV is bragging about record viewership for Ted Lasso's The Season that premiered August 4th, delivered nearly 300 million minutes of watch time in just 2 days. The Devil Wears Prada 2 is paying dividends for Italy. My colleague Nick Vivarelli reports that tourism in Milan to sites featured in the film is up 18% in recent months, and with the Venice Film Festival on the way in a few weeks, those numbers are sure to go up a few more ticks from all the visiting Americans and other film buffs. The Television Academy Hall of Fame induction ceremony was a lively affair on Thursday night. My colleague Michael Schneider reports that famed documentary producer and HBO executive Sheila Nevins had to miss the event because she's fighting a case of COVID. She sent in a video, and her first thank you went to Dr. Anthony Fauci for leading the charge against COVID vaccines. Good for her. The other honorees this year were Ted Danson, South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos, the great Gene Smart, and the late 60 Minutes correspondent Ed Bradley. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. And now it's time for conversations with industry leaders about news and trends in show business. Leslie Iwerks is a seasoned documentary and unscripted producer who is also part of a long line of industry pioneers. Her latest venture is Disney Worldbuilders. It looks at the creative process and the impact of stories that become IRL worlds at Disney parks and other locations. The film features candid sit-downs with Helmer's James Cameron, Jon Favreau, Pete Docter, Dave Filoni, and Jared Bush, as well as Marvel's Kevin Feige, Disney Animation's Jennifer Lee, and Disney toppers past and present, Bob Iger and Josh D'Amaro. Disney Worldbuilders premieres on Disney Plus August 20th. It comes just 8 months after Iwerks released the Disneyland Handcrafted documentary on Disney Plus, which looks at the magic behind the scenes that powers the Magic Kingdom. Iwerks has become the foremost chronicler of how Disney has changed entertainment and influenced culture, and she is well positioned for that role. Leslie Iwerks, producer and director, your most recent project is coming soon to Disney Plus, Disney Worldbuilders. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm a Disney buff, so I know Ub Iwerks' significant contributions to the making of the Mouse House, and you've gone a long way to putting your grandfather's contributions into perspective, so puts you really well positioned for the Worldbuilders project. Tell me the story that you're telling here in this documentary.
I just came off the heels of Disneyland Handcrafted, which was a documentary about the making of Disneyland with raw footage that no one's really seen before. And in the making of this film, I really started immersing myself in the sort of the origin story of Disneyland, and seeing all these photographs of Walt walk around Disneyland and be in his worlds that he created on film. It made me think about what it must have been like for him to experience them for the first time and to see guests walk through his lands. And as he said, Disneyland is your land. So I started thinking about that, what it must have felt like for him. And then I'm thinking about all the lands that are there now, Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge and Zootopia and Toy Story Land and World of Frozen. And I started thinking about all the people in Avatar. What do they feel like when they walk through their own lands? So that became an idea that I was talking about with Jason Farkas, an executive at Disney. And he came to me and said, "What are you thinking about your next project?" I mentioned this and I said, "Give me a weekend and let me think about an idea." And so this idea sort of gelled over that weekend. And then I started thinking about Bob Iger and how he was the one that brought all these brands into the fold at Disney. And what is his story? It was his legacy here. And so it all kind of worked together as a narrative thread, telling these mini biographies of each person across the course of the film, and sort of bookended by Bob Iger, who is not a self-proclaimed storyteller himself, but certainly enables storytellers and has enabled these people to tell their stories in the best possible ways. So that was the genesis of this film, and I was very fortunate that they all came on and wanted to participate.
You have incredible not only Bob Iger, a very bold-faced name in this town, but James Cameron, Jon Favreau, Kevin Feige, Jennifer Lee, Pete Docter, Dave Filoni, Jared Bush, and Josh D'Amaro, Bob Iger's successor as CEO of Disney. And so you really get a 360 view of how these worlds are put together.
What I realized about all these guys sitting with them was that they're all big kids at heart. And this invitation to participate with Walt Disney Imagineering and turn their film into an attraction or a land is like a dream. They all are like kids in a candy store just going, yes, please, yes, please. And they want to learn about the new technologies that the Imagineers are working with. And I think it's exciting for them because they're in the world of film, whether it be CGI or virtual production or regular film production. That's their world. But to step into the sandbox that is Walt Disney Imagineering in Glendale is not something just anybody gets to do.
That combination of the creative spark and the technical ability. That marriage can be difficult, but when you get it just right.
Well, the cool thing about that is it really did start back in 1920 with my grandfather and Walt Disney when they were teenagers in Kansas City.
The Alice comedies, right?
Exactly.
Goes back that far?
It does, and Ub was coming up with the technology to bring a live action girl in an animated world, and that hadn't been done before. The other side of that had been done, but not a live action girl in an animated background. And so that was their early foray into a technical pioneering project. But then leap forward and you've got, synchronized sound with Mickey Mouse. You've got color cartoon. You got the multiplane camera, adding depth to animation. From there, you just jump forward to the work that my grandfather did, designing and inventing the Circle Vision camera system for Walt. And these technological developments were pervasive through their entire careers. And it was this not technology for technology's sake. It was always in service of the story. And so I was kind of liken Walt and Ub in their earliest years of two sides of the same coin. Walt was the creative storytelling genius and Ub was the technical genius. And if Ub came up with something, Walt would figure out a way to use it. And if Walt had an idea, couldn't figure out how to make it happen, Ub would figure it out. And so I think that yin and yang of technical and creative was this, it would always just fuel the other forward. And so that is what is happening today. And these storytellers are coming up with ideas and these Imagineers are figuring out how to make it an experience that is unlike any other. And one other thing that I can say is that these are all top directors, who have brought in billions of dollars at the box office in their films. And you think that they're on these pedestals up there and the fans are like, wow, it's Kevin Feige, it's Jared Bush, it's Jon Favreau. And the reality is that sitting down with them and having candid conversations about their passions and their highs and lows and their insecurities and their doubts along the way in their careers.
At this time when everybody's grappling the transformative effects of technology, looking at how it can be that marriage that makes 1 + 1 = 4.
I think in the AI of it all, so much of this is very much handcrafted. Going back to Disneyland handcrafted, but today, so much of it is handcrafted. It is still polished, it's still carved, it's still painted, it's still hand done. There's so much of Imagineering and the parks physically that are all done by hand. So I just want to remind creators out there that there is a huge place for things to be created by hand, in your mind and by hand, all over the parks in the world, but in the real world too. So it's not just AI.
Leslie, start to finish, how long did it take you to complete the documentary?
It was quick. We started filming late, like December 25, and then sporadically filmed over the course of, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, and then edited along the way and wrapped it in June. It was a fast project.
You must have gotten a lot of yeses very quickly.
Well, yes and no. We got some yeses. We had some yeses, but the schedules didn't quite align until quite later. But we were thrilled that we could get everybody in this. And I wish that everybody could have come together in one scene, but we filmed it as individual episodes, and I don't think the schedules would allow everybody to come together anyway. But for the most part, we're going to get everybody on stage at D23. It'll be fun to debut or premiere the film at D23.
Leslie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Netflix has set the date of November 19th for its drama series The Altruists, about Sam Bankman-Fried and the spectacular collapse of the FTX crypto exchange in 2022. It's billed as the story of the Bonnie and Clyde of Gen Z. I was fascinated by the real-life story of this when it all blew up in 2022. The Altruist stars Anthony Boyle as Bankman-Fried and Julia Garner as Caroline Ellison. Save the date of November 12th. Steven Spielberg will be saluted by the Museum of Modern Art at its 18th annual film benefit. Don't miss Daily Variety's companion Strictly Business podcast that is out today. My longtime colleague, Andrew Wallenstein of Luminate, has a great conversation with retired NBA player Blake Griffin and retired NFL player Ryan Khalil. Like so many pros, they've both gone into media. They've produced a docuseries about their purchase of a Mexican football team. We are Osos. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Melissa Stone. She's been promoted to Senior VP of Publicity for Walt Disney Studios. Stone has spent the past 14 years working in film PR for Disney and 20th Century Fox. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton. Sticks, Nicks, Hick Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice. And don't forget to tune in Monday for another episode of Daily Variety.